Hope you like to discuss.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All of you are there?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now today we talk about the Aristotle chapter. I've been telling you that for Plato it was Socrates. The mentor was Socrates. Similarly, for Aristotle, it is Plato. And I also told you that not only Aristotle is the greatest follower of Plato, but also greatest critic of Plato. Means, many times Aristotle has gave his opinion in favor of Plato, and sometimes also against what Plato believes in. So Aristotle has also given many theories like theory of state, theory of citizenship, theory of property, theory of constitution. We will talk about it one by one. But remember, from the day one I have been telling you, the best way to know the works of people is to first know about the person. Do not jump into the work. Know who is the person. So we should try to understand who is Aristotle. That means what is the personality of Aristotle? Now, Aristotle is considered as father of political science, and Plato was considered as father of political philosophy. So the difference is political science and political philosophy. We will talk about it, why it is political science and why it is philosophy, what is the difference in detail and later on. But as a common sense, if you apply, science is based on logic, okay, and science is rational. Science is based on reasoning. Philosophy may not follow all this line of thought. Philosophy may not be always logical. Philosophy may not be always based on reasoning. Philosophy is more idealism. So this statement, this difference, Aristotle as a father of political science, this gives an idea to us that if Plato was more idealistic person, Plato was more utopian person, Aristotle is more logical person, because Aristotle believes in scientific approach. Aristotle believes in rationing. Aristotle believes in reasoning. And Aristotle also believed that there is nothing called as equality. That means everyone cannot be equal. So he believed that everyone is different. Okay. And for Aristotle, he believed more on common sense rather than trying to be a utopian. He believed in common sense. He believed in applying of those rationing and logical sense of common sense. And moreover, you can also see these personalities that appears in the works of Aristotle. When we will try to learn one by one, you will get to know that how scientific his approaches are. Interestingly, Plato always believed to go to an extent. Look at the example of Plato, of philosopher king. He always wanted a perfect person. He always wanted a perfect state. Plato. But look at Aristotle. Aristotle has also said that we should not lose good for the sake of best. Because his personality, his conviction is towards more practicality, more pragmatic. He believes that if we keep changing to achieve the best, if we keep changing to achieve the perfection, it may not be possible also sometimes. It may not be achievable also sometimes. So why we should lose the good for the sake of best? We should not do it. So that is how is somehow the personality of Aristotle. And we get to know the personality while also comparing with Plato. Interestingly, there are many similarities, many convergence of the thinking process of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. Of course, in the previous class I had talked about like sophist school of thought. Remember, in the sophist school of thought during the time of Socrates, sophists taught to the students what students wants to listen, and moreover, sophists taught to the students that wealth and power are the ultimate that you have to achieve. But on the contrary, we came to know that Socrates was more on how to lead a good life, and that we can achieve through knowledge. Like knowledge is virtue. So Aristotle is also in a similar thinking process. Plato also has agreed. Plato did not appreciate what Sophist school of thought were doing. Plato also wanted to make the dominance of the state because Sophist school of thought they emphasized more on individual. But Socrates, Plato, they emphasized more on the state and governance. So this is one of the convergence area where Aristotle also agrees with the thought process of Socrates and Plato, where Aristotle also suggests that we shouldn't listen to the sophist school of thought because for individual, he also has emphasized that man is a social animal. That means man is moving around the center and especially the periphery and covered with the state or the governance procedures. So Aristotle is also kind of person who believes in authority of the state. Okay? Remember also how Aristotle has argued against the Plato's consideration that philosopher king is dominated with the reason, but sometimes Aristotle has also argued that passion may lead it. You cannot always guarantee that a person who is expected to be the ruler uh, may not always have the reason in his capacity to lead it. So philosopher king is always a perfect person. But again, Aristotle is saying that why we should lose the good for the sake of best, we should not do that because we may not achieve the best always. So that is a brief, uh, introduction about the Aristotle, about his personalities, what kind of person he was, and what was his thinking process. Did you guys understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next, what we try to do, we try to understand the works of Aristotle. We try to understand the many ideas of Aristotle, and let us try to have a dialect or maybe a kind of analysis from the exam point of view. Okay. So I'll just present my screen. then we will try to discuss about it. So, out of many works, I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Topic we are discussing today is (384) BC to 322 BC. Now, out of many of the concept what Aristotle has proposed, for the exam point of view, we will follow a couple of important theories. So Aristotle has provided theory of state, then theory of citizenship, then theory of slavery, then theory of property, then theory of constitution, then theory of equality. Another last one we will discuss theory of revolution. So these are the many things what Aristotle has proposed and provided for us to understand from the exam point of view also. Uh, let us move then. Yes, all of
Yes, sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me come back to the screen. Okay. So in the theory of state, there are certain quotes which you need to remember. And I will suggest you to revise it again and again so that you do not miss it. And you can write those things in your answers. One is, these are by Aristotle, okay? Man is by nature a political animal. Next, one can be either beast or god, but cannot be either, cannot be a man if one can live without state. Okay, one can be either beast or god, but cannot be a man if one can live without state. Next, state comes into existence for the sake of life, and it continues for the sake of good life. Okay, state comes into existence for the sake of life and it continues for the sake of good life. These are very important from the exam point of view also. State is highest of all associations. Next, the authority of statesman is different from the authority of master. Next, okay, so far this much only. Now, just a quick recap that under the theory of state, what Aristotle is saying that man is by nature a political animal. One can be either beast or god, but cannot be a man if one can live without state. Then he says that state comes into existence for the sake of good life and it continues for the sake of this good life. Next, state is the highest of all associations. Next, the authority of statesmen is different from the authority of master. Okay, so these are the general questions also you get directly. Let's say, for example, the question will come. Let's say, man is by nature a political plus social animal. Comment. Okay, so this is the question which you may face. We need to understand how to answer these questions. But before we try to understand, let us try to first focus that what is the demand of this question or the statement. First thing first, we need to understand what is the meaning of this statement. Then it will be easy to write the answer. First of all, man is by nature a political or social animal. So you can see that political and social animal or the political or the social word, you know that it is related to the governance. That means it is related to the state. So this statement is somehow referring to the relation between the state and the man and how a man is responsible in a state. Now let us focus to understand and answer this. You can see that this statement is also about the importance of the state. Remember, though the statement is referring the man is by nature, of course there is emphasis on the man and the individual, but it is also more emphasizing on the state or the importance of the states. Now, in earlier of my statement, I have told you that Aristotle also belongs to the same traditional thinking like Plato. Okay, as Plato has emphasized that on the ideal state. Remember, Plato belongs to Athens and he wanted to make Athens an ideal state. So Aristotle here also believes in the importance of states. So like Plato, Aristotle also disagrees with the sophist view, disagrees with sophist view, sophist school of thought. Okay, remember, sophist, already you know that they were more emphasizing on individual. But what Socrates has told, what Plato has told, that more emphasis on the state. Now, and one of the problem of the sophists that they were inspiring the youth only for the self-interest. That means sophists were telling to the youth to look for only for the cause of them. But here what Aristotle is trying to establish, that man is by nature a political and social animal. That means Aristotle is trying to establish that man, you know, apart from looking at the self-interest, what is more important is to look for the bigger picture. And what is the bigger picture? Bigger picture is the social life and the political life. And that means the state. So man should also dedicate himself for the state. And Aristotle also emphasizes on saying that state is necessity of man. State is necessity of man. That means what? Without state, a man cannot survive. Okay. So according to him, nature has not made man or self-sufficient. What he says, Aristotle says that nature, the nature has not made man or self-sufficient. Okay, and he says that man can only fulfill the desires. Man can fulfill the desires or the needs on its own. Okay, even for his the basic needs, he, like for example, he requires to establish a family. And family can fulfill some of the needs. Okay, if you talk about the life of man from the birth to the end, that means death, there are many phases of man. Okay, so in every phases there are certain contributions of many people. So he says that by nature man is not self-sufficient, and but man can fulfill the needs on its own. And he also goes on saying that family is one of the aspects. Family can fulfill some of the needs, but not all. Okay, family can fulfill some needs, but not all. So for that, what the person needs to do, the person needs to make association. Okay, and what type of association? That is a secondary association. Of course, family is always a first association. But what other secondary associations are all about? Like for example, village. Now village is coming into the existence. Okay. Even he also says and goes on saying that village is also not sufficient to fulfill all his dreams or all his needs. So who can fulfill? Now again coming the broader or the big association that is called as state. Okay, I'm just breaking down for you people to understand bit of easier. What he says that first of all, a man can fulfill on its own. Okay, man can fulfill the needs on its own, but not all needs. So some of the needs to be fulfilled, he needs family, but family cannot fulfill everything. Next, the secondary association, that is the village. But again, village is also limited. Village also cannot fulfill everything. Then the state comes into existence. So this is the hierarchy what he is suggesting, that how man is a social as well as, you know, social and political involved. Okay. So he also says that it is in the destiny of the man to become a member of the political community. Okay, because man cannot fulfill by himself. He needs support of other institutions and other people. And for that, it is important that a man to be within those aspects. So far, we have discussed about it. Now, let us also try to understand the state is, family is the first association, the village is the second association, and the state, he is saying, the highest association, highest form of association. Okay, so thus he is trying to establish that what obligation a man has towards the state. Okay, now will you be able to answer this question if this comes, that man is a social political animal, and what you need to write? Can you answer this? Yes, all of
So
you,
little bit trying. Uh,
please try.
we wrote Aristotle establishes the importance of state
Great.
by suggesting that state is a natural institution.
Mhm.
Uh, it is imported the human nature,
Okay, go
and
on.
his support his view on the basis of needs.
Okay,
Yes.
then go on, you are in the right direction.
Mm,
Then he tries to
and for uh,
show how a man is involved with the social and political life. Yes,
yes, sir.
he says that nature has not made man a self-sufficient. That means whatever man needs, nature cannot fulfill that, and for that, man need to involve in many forms of association, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So first
Yes,
form
sir.
of association is the family. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so the family also cannot fulfill everything. So the second form of association is the village, and the highest
Village.
form of
Yes.
association is the state. That
State.
means he also says that man is by destiny is a must involved with the political system. Okay, so this is a very interesting question. So if you do not know this particular, kind of association, you may write that you can write in a generic way, but that is not going to fetch your mark. So you have to write very precise and very particular as to what I have made you understood. All of you are clear about this topic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is good. Now let us look into another question. That means another. See, now we are understanding this Aristotle, Plato, and other topics through kind of a question answer format, so that uh, we exactly know what is the best for the exam. Next one is the authority of statesman is different from the authority of master. by Aristotle. So do you understand the meaning of statesman and master? Anyone who can give a brief idea?
So I think it's criticism for Plato's view on the state.
That we will discuss. But what is the meaning of statesman? Because till today also there are many politicians. Sometimes they are also named as they are statesman. For example, Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
So it means state is like a family for them.
Hmm. And what master?
Masters.
Sir, statesman is charismatic political leader. Then master is owner, owner of the state. You can say like that.
Okay.
So, uh, statement is like he or she is liked by the people, and master is like he may be like or may not be like, but he just on the state.
Hmm.
So I think master have absolute power,
Hmm.
and the statement is constitutional.
Hmm. See, the concept of leader and follower, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's very simple. That if there is a leader, there are followers. Try to understand there are different leaders also. So if you say when a person will obey you, one person will obey you, number one, because the person is respecting you, because the person is giving value to you, and the person will also obey you, second number, out of fear. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So follower, that means a person can obey you. I mean, there are two major reasons. One is that respecting or value, and out of fear also. So you can say that a statesman is a kind of respect and value. That means the follower of the statesman, statements and his or her decisions are appreciated by many because he doesn't take or she doesn't take the decision. The statesman doesn't take decision in a self-centric view. Statesman takes decision for the greater good, for the welfare of the everyone. But what about master? Master sounds more self-centric. Okay, so master sounds that more of a forcing. Here, statesmen will never force anyone that you follow me, but master may try to force. So this is the very thin line of difference which you can understand between statesman and master. But remember here, this is not what is going to work in this particular question. So what we are going to do, we will understand that why Aristotle is saying that authority of a statesman is different from the authority of master. We will try to understand from the exam point of view, not from the common understanding point of view. Let us first try to understand this. So in this case, what is happening that Aristotle differs with the view of Plato. Remember, Plato has given the philosopher king concept. Okay. So if you talk about this organization principles, by both Aristotle and Plato, both differ from each other. Now, so Plato prefers the rule of philosopher king. He prefers the rule of philosopher king, single person entity. Okay, and the nature of the authority what philosopher king is expected to exhibit, it's like a father. Okay, it's like father, and it's like master. Okay, father, and you can say that like father in a family. You have to respect, you have to obey. So philosopher king is more like a master. And what Plato wants that every person within the state must obey the philosopher king. Okay, like the members of the family, they obey the head of the family, that is the head of the family, that is father. Okay, so here what exactly Plato tries to put forceful obey of people to their master, that means philosopher king. So now according to Aristotle is trying to emphasize that state, when Plato considered the state as a family, and criticizes excessive unity. That means this is what Aristotle thinks. Aristotle thinks that Plato considers state as a family, and Plato considers criticizing the excessive unity. Okay, now whereas the state is actually not one family. Okay, what Aristotle is focusing, the state is not one family. So state is more like family of families. Okay, there are many families, so state is the family of all the families. So Aristotle goes on saying that state is unity in diversity. Okay, now what he is trying to explain also, Aristotle, that there might be within the, let's say this is a state, within the state there might be, like, say, different families, and with the different families, there might be different opinion also, different opinion. So it is the responsibility of the statesman how to achieve an equilibrium or balancing point at which everybody can accept it. Okay, so according to Aristotle, he also says that how can you make a great state? It can be also possible only when citizen the citizen should participate participate in lawmaking. Remember, if you compare the Plato's theories of the education, we have understood that everybody, they were not allowed in the lawmaking procedure. Remember the man of, like, the theory of metal. Okay, man of gold, silver, and the copper. So only the man of gold category of people, class of people, they were participating in the lawmaking. Silver, they were soldiers, and copper, they are appetite. That means they will the producer class. But here Aristotle is expecting that everybody should participate, and they must participate in the lawmaking procedures. Okay. Now this also can come with different types of interest, because every citizens, they have a different opinion, they have a different interest, so they can come with a different interest. So that is how is the responsibilities of a statesman, responsibilities of a statesman to ensure that there is a no that there is a common hood, there is a common point where everybody can agree. But if you compare with like Plato's philosopher king, Plato's philosopher king was more like a kind of a paternal authority, a kind of a master, what he has given the emphasis on. Are you clear, guys, all of you? This particular question,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
the authority of statesman is different from the authority of master. Clear, all of you? Or any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, very nice. Now let us
Sir,
come
I
to
wasn't able to.
yes.
Sir, I wasn't able to listen from the beginning for network issues.
Okay, so you can revise it quickly. Okay. Now the next topic of discussion is theory of citizen. Theory of citizenship. Now let us try to understand this theory given by Aristotle. So Aristotle, he explains the citizenship is like duty. Is duty. Okay, try to understand. Aristotle is saying that citizenship is like a duty. Okay, that means what kind of duty it is? It is a duty to participate in the affairs of state. Okay, now he says that citizenship may be looked narrow from the perspective of modern times because he excludes large number of persons from the status of citizenship. Try to understand. At a modern time, if you let's say consider India, okay, everyone is citizenship. Every person is citizen of India. Of course, there is a certain criteria how to and who is the citizen. So we all are citizen by birth. There are other provisions if of foreign outside of India who wish to achieve citizenship. There are certain provisions which you can get it under the citizenship part of the constitution, that is part 2. Now when we talk about Aristotle's citizenship concept, see, Aristotle is not giving citizenship to everyone or every category of people. So you can say that Aristotle's citizenship is more narrow. Remember, we are saying narrow because we are in modern time. Okay, now then who are those categories eligible for the citizenship according to Aristotle? He says that only adult males belonging to the property class, they are the citizens. Understands? So Plato, you can say Plato is more of a conservative. Okay, Plato's narrows the opportunity for becoming a citizen. Plato does not give citizenship to everyone. Plato says that only adult males, and that too if they belong to the property class, they only can be a citizen. Okay, remember what is the duty of a citizen? The duty of a citizen to participate. Duty is to participate in lawmaking procedure. Okay, so far we have understood. Now, one question which you may ask, that why other categories are not included? Of course, this question is generic to come to your mind. Now, let us understand who are those people who are excluded and why. Why they are excluded. So, who are excluded? One category of excluded, that is women. So, Aristotle explains that women are excluded because they are too busy, okay, with family works, in family works, and they cannot afford time. That means they do not have time to to participate in public affairs, or you can say civic affairs. Try to understand what we are trying to understand. According to Aristotle, women cannot participate, and what is the reason? The reason is that they are too busy in the family works, so they do not have time to participate in the civic affairs. So this is one of the opinion of Aristotle. Second category is the old persons. Now, old persons, why? Because they might not be suitable. Okay, they might not be suitable, or they may not fulfill it. They may not fulfill the duties. Remember, what is the duty? Duties is to participate in the lawmaking. They may not fulfill the duties due to their physical reasons. Okay. Then next category is children. So why children cannot become citizen? Because they are not mature. They are not mature enough. They are not mature enough to participate. And next one is slaves. Why not slaves? Because they do not have reason to participate. They do not have reason to participate. They are not interested in the lawmaking process, and they have no roles. Understand, this is very interesting. Okay, if this question comes that explain the theory of citizenship, what are you going to supposed to write in this particular theory of citizenship by Aristotle? By Aristotle is that, first of all, he explains citizenship as a duty to participate in the affairs of the state. Then you try to say that Aristotle's view of citizenship is somehow narrow if we look from the point of view of modern time that we are living currently. He is also saying that who are eligible for the citizenship? Only the adult males belonging to the property class are eligible. Okay, and who are excluded and why? Women, because they are too engaged in the family affairs, they do not have time. What about old persons? Because of their physical reasons. Okay, they do not have strength. And what about the children? Because they are not matured enough. What about the slaves? Because they do not have the reason. Okay, so to participate in the lawmaking process. So this is what we understand so far related to theory of citizenship. Did you guys understand this topic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Very,
sir.
very much clear about
So
it?
I have a doubt.
Please ask.
So in one side, Aristotle said that citizens should participate in lawmaking process,
Hmm.
and other side he said that master have appetite and slave have not. He doesn't have any decision making process.
Hmm.
He criticized himself. Other side he making both statement are differ.
Okay. Can you please explain a bit more about your opinion?
So I'm talking about citizenship
Hmm.
and theory of
citizenship.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, in this
So,
theory of what Aristotle, look at the point of view of Aristotle. Okay. If we put ourselves, let me come back to you. So, if we try to understand and look into the minds of Aristotle, then Aristotle is thinking similar to the Plato as to how the state can be better developed. So, to do a better developed state, every citizen must participate. That means citizen participation is required. And he is trying to explain that the citizens should participate only those who qualify, only those who are interested, only those who are eligible. Okay, otherwise it will be wastage of time. Otherwise it will be wastage of the opinion, because ultimately when we talk about lawmaking procedures, one person must have interest into that. Okay, so look at, for example, if you try to resemble to today, of course it is way changed. In today times there are no such restrictions. I mean, at least there is no such discriminatory restrictions. There are restrictions, but there are no such discriminating restrictions. But one thing you can say that children, like for example, today also, till the age of 18, you cannot participate in the voting process. Why? Because children are not mature enough. So this is one of the reason you can say that Aristotle was also correct during that time. Today also it is correct. Okay, that means you can say that, why children are not participating, because they have to understand how the law is being processed and what is the importance of law. It is not only that you participate, but you should also understand the gravity of the governance procedure. One must also understand that how this government functions. And children are not matured enough to understand how does the government functions. Why is that so? Because state is the highest authority that a man can depend upon. And if state does something, it affects the life of the people. So we better involve those people who are matured enough to take decision and who have uh, reason to take the decision and who are fit to take decisions. Okay, that is how uh, Aristotle suggests that women cannot participate, not because any physical reason, but because they are involved in the family matters. Old men because of the physical reason, and children because of the not mature enough. And the slaves, they cannot participate because they do not have any reason. They are supposed to follow the masters. Okay, they do not have any reason to participate. Look at, if you also coincide with the poor people today in India, you know sometimes there are also certain surveys you may go through it. Sometimes for a person who doesn't have any financial independency, for them who is the leader is not matters a lot. For them what matters is how they can feed, how they can at least fulfill their basic needs of food, then shelter and the clothes, how they can feed their family. That is the first thing which comes into their mind. They are not interested that who is the leader, because despite the fact there are so many leaders being changed, their life is not changing. So they just want their life to change. So that is the importance what it is trying to highlight. Okay, so
yes, sir.
I hope you are able to co-link with different topics. Okay. Now, any more
Yes, sir.
doubts from any of you? John, Daisy, Prem Kumar?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Now, as this the Aristotle has started the concept. You have also told that related to the slaves. So he also have given a theory of slavery. Okay. Now let us try to next topic under this Aristotle chapter. Try to understand the theory of slavery. Let me come back to you. Okay. So far we have understood many of the topics. Another topic which we need to go through, that is theory of slavery. Now, what Aristotle says, two important things. He says that slavery is natural. Of course, again, you can say Aristotle is conservative. For today, modern times, you know that slavery is banned. Okay, we cannot practice slavery. But during the times of Aristotle, he said that slavery is natural. Next, he also says that slavery is useful. Okay. Now, what is this slavery? First of all, the slavery is a practice. You can say that like in ancient Greece. Okay. Aristotle looks at the slavery from the functional point of view, not from the any other point of view. He looks at the slavery from the functional point of view. That means what functions a slave has in the society, or what function a slave has in the social participations. Okay. Then he says that there are two types of slaves. Okay, there are two types of slaves. And what are those two types? Number one, he says the slaves by law. Okay, who are those slaves by law? For example, prisoners of war. Let's say one country has war with another, and the winning country has captured the people of the opposite country who lost the war. So they become automatically the prisoner. So they become the slaves. Another one is the slaves by nature. So you can say that his theory, Aristotle's theory on slavery is more on slaves by nature, and it is not slaves by law. He's not talking about this. He has defined the two different types of slaves, but he's not talking about slaves by law. He's talking about more slaves by nature. Okay. So he says that, again, according to him, nature has made two types of person. Nature has made two types of person. Number one type, who are mentally strong. Mentally strong. And number two, who are physically strong. Okay. So those who are mentally strong, they ought to be ruler. Okay. Understand? Those who are mentally strong here ought to be ruler. And those who are physically strong, there ought to be producer plus slaves. Okay, now you can also see that somehow Plato was also somehow similar to this. How? Because in the theory of education of Plato has suggested that Plato has more focused on the regions, that means mentally strong. You remember that stages of the examination of Plato, he has suggested that there will be like one kind of a filtration process. Okay, so in that filtration
Yes, sir.
process, if anyone will lose it, then the person will become producer. Next, there will be military examination. Then, if somebody will lose, then finally, what would happen? The winner people will move ahead for the region, that means ruler, and the other people will be the soldier class. So similarly, Aristotle is also following his masters, following his mentors' point of view or the footsteps. He's also saying that you know in the entire world, two category of people: mentally strong and physically strong people. So mentally who are strong, they will be ruler, and physically those who are strong, they will be producer or the slaves. Okay. Now he goes on. Then who are these people? Then who are these people? Who are these people slaves by nature? says that slaves by nature are those who do not have capacity to take decisions. That means who are slaves by nature? They are the people who do not have capacity to take decision. And interestingly, he also says that who do not have capacity to, or who do not have courage to stand by consequences of their decision. Interesting. So he says, who are the slaves by nature? He says the persons who do not have capacity to take decisions, and those people who do not stand, who do not have courage to stand by the consequences of the decision. Let's say today we take a decision and tomorrow it doesn't work. So if we cannot stand by our decision, then somehow you can say that we are not uh, having the courage. So he says that the persons who will not be slaves must always have the courage to take the decisions and also must have the capacity to take the decisions. Both the things are important. And he says, on the contrary, that the ruling class, so the ruling class people, so they are always driven by reason and courage. That means they have the ability to take decision, and you can say that they can stand by the consequences of the decisions. Okay. So you can also say, I'll just also give you a brief idea of another thinker. His name is Machiavelli. We will talk about Machiavelli in our future classes. Machiavelli once held that a prince has to be clever like fox and strong like lion. This was the statement by Machiavelli. So Machiavelli has held a prince has to be clever like a fox and strong like a lion. That means, uh, similar kind of thought. Aristotle is suggesting that the ruling class of people, they must have reason as well as the courage. Similarly, Machiavelli is also saying that a ruler, that means a prince, who is expected to be the future king, must be clever like fox and strong like lion. Okay. So you can say that, from this point of view, as a concluding remarks, you can say that, uh, you know, this concept of slavery. So Aristotle is justifying the concept of slavery as an institution. That means he says that slavery is natural, okay, and natural for whom? Who do not have capacity to take decision and who cannot stand by the consequences of the decision. So Aristotle has even suggested the utility of slavery. That means he remember, as he is looking at the functionaries of slavery, that how slavery can be functioned in the society and in the uh, political affairs, as well as he says that slavery is important, slavery is useful. How? Because the masters gets leisure time, they can get some free time. Okay. So to fulfill the duties, to fulfill the duties as citizen. So he is trying to explain, he is trying to justify that the utility of the slaves, that the masters can get some free time, can get some time to fulfill their duties as citizens. Okay. Now, Aristotle suggests that, but see, although Aristotle is suggesting the concept of slavery as an institution, but Aristotle strongly believes and suggests that slaves ought to be treated well by their masters, Remember, so when we try to see the concept of slaves, we always see that slaves are marginalized. Okay, slaves are marginalized and slaves are discriminated, slaves are suppressed. But Aristotle is not in favor of the marginalized or the discrimination style. Aristotle is saying that slaves, they have a duty, they have a utility for their masters also, and you know, and slaves, they ought to be treated well by their masters. Interestingly, he doesn't say that the slaves, once slaves, that means always. He doesn't believe in that concept. He says that slowly throughout the work, if the slaves generates, okay, if the slaves can develop the virtues of reason and then courage, then the master must release them. Then master must release them. Okay, that means he doesn't believe in the concept of one slaves always slave. He doesn't believe in that concept. He says that if the slaves, they develop the virtue of reason and the courage, then the masters must release them, and so that they can participate in the political and economical system. Okay, so you can say that slaves are always physically strong and then they can work for long durations. Okay, so they are more helpful for the productive work of producer class. Okay, now one thing that if in a concluding remark we can appreciate that Aristotle is telling the essential quality of the slaves. Okay, but we can also criticize that. There are two things. You can say for means what? For means uh, you can explain that Aristotle thinking that utility of the slaves will help the masters to gain some extra time for participating in the political affairs. That is one of the good utility. And also you can say that this concept especially, that is also we are in a favor. But you can also criticize. Okay, in the criticism you can say that he, Aristotle, for justification of the slavery, the way he is justifying the slavery, somehow that is criticizable. Okay, now slavery is in any form is against human dignity. Now if you talk about today's context, you know that our constitution also does not allow any slavery. Even there is a very great thinking, by Immanuel Kant. Remember, he says that each man is end in itself. No one ought to treat other as a means to an end. So this is very important point. Each man is an end itself. No one ought to treat other as a means to an end. That means no one should use the man to achieve their end. So that should not be the practice. Okay, now we could understand how Aristotle has given those tactics and what we can appreciate and what we should criticize. And finally, it is a statement by Immanuel Kant. Now let me come back to you. So did you understand so far the details of Aristotle related to the theory of slavery?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts
Yes,
so
sir.
far? What we have understood?
No,
Not
sir.
yet, sir.
Okay, very nice. So far we have discussed about the personality of Aristotle, about some of the theories of Aristotle. Okay, citizenship, then manage a political animal. Then we also have discussed about this slavery concept. Finally, we are trying to understand. If you see Aristotle's thinking process, don't you think that Aristotle is more pragmatic compared to Plato?
Yes, sir.
That is one of the reasons. Some things you may not like for example, the way he is explaining the theory of slavery, especially institutionalizing. But some of the reasons like participation in the democracy, who should be the citizen. Okay, so couple of things you may appreciate because they are more logical in sense. Okay, so in the next class we will continue the topic. There are few topics left of Aristotle. The next topic we will discuss, that is theory of property, in the next class. Good enough. I think we have understood a very good chapter, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
you like.
Yes, sir.
Hope you like today's class.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So looking forward for the next class.
Yes, sir.
See you then. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.